Welcome to Hungry Dads, your guided tour through the delicate and often overwhelming balancing act between food indulgences and social acceptance. And now, as always, here are your hosts, Rod Budget and Hugh Gallen.
Welcome to episode 13 of Hungry Dads. I'm Rod Budget.
I'm Hugh Gallen.
And this week I want to spend a little time talking about getting food delivered. One of the things I miss most about living in New York City is the ability to have almost any type of food delivered while I'm sitting on the couch, any time of day or night. 1 a.m. if I want tacos, I can get them. It's a great, great thing. It was unbelievable. Sushi, sandwiches, burgers, tacos. Hugh and I had a favorite place called Taco City back when we were in there. Speedy, tasty food. You know, even the corner deli, a lot of people don't realize, will deliver $10 minimum. They will deliver anything to your apartment. Chips, cookies, ice cream, sodas, sandwiches. You name it, it's coming to you. But now that I'm in the suburbs, my delivery options have contracted rather drastically. And by rather drastically, I mean I have the choice of a few pizza chains, and that's about it, which is somewhat depressing. So let's talk about those pizza chains and some of the interesting things that have been going on in the world of pizza chain ordering and delivery, specifically over the past several years.
Yeah, I'm anxious to hear some of what you have to say about the ordering from the pizza chains and in your where you live, because just to talk about delivery, here in New York, I could obviously mirror everything you said. There is a great ability to order many things. Now, I will confess, I have moved from the heart of Manhattan, where we used to live, where all those options are open, and you'd be surprised how quickly your options reduce the further you get away from that metro area. I still have lots of options, make no mistake, but they have gone down, and it's created a potentially new problem and outlook on ordering for me, and I don't know if you've experienced this, and it's that with fewer options, if you order too much, I end up getting a little anxious that the people who I'm ordering from are judging me for having ordered their food so often. I sometimes would rotate between different places because I'd say, I just called them and they're going to show up again. Like, I don't want, they're going to get too friendly and they're going to, start to talk about this guy who keeps ordering pizza all the time. And so I would get insecure about ordering from the same place too often under the thinking that they must be judging me. Have you ever experienced this?
I'm thinking back to my New York City days. I think I've experienced that, definitely. Taco City comes to mind. I think we were ordering from there at least 3 times a week at one point, and the thought crossed my mind, it's probably worse for you because now you said you have fewer choices, so they may very well recognize your voice at some point. But that's actually a great segue into what I want to talk about, because I do not talk to anyone when I order pizzas. So let me expound on that a little bit. First off, before I get started too much into the ordering, I want to preface this by saying, and I'm interested in getting your take, Hugh, in my opinion, and I'm sure there will be some disagreement with me on this, but once you get into the large pizza chains outside of, authentic New York Slices or a deep dish Chicago pizzeria or a upper scale thin crust specialty place, all the pizza is pretty much the same to me. It's by no means great pizza. It all kind of tastes the same. It tastes excellent, don't get me wrong. It's not going to stop me from eating an entire pie by myself, but once you get past, the upper end of pizza, I feel like there's a whole level of Pizza Hut, Domino's, Little Caesars, Papa John's. It's kind of all the same to me. There's some slight variation, but when it comes to taste, that's not what I'm basing my decision on. How about you, Hugh?
Yeah, I guess I would say they're the same in quality, which is to say it's, mid-level at best, probably better described as low level. Again, agreeing with you that yes, I'll eat it, yes, it's delicious, and yes, I enjoy it. But that said, I do think it's all the same with respect to quality. I do think that there are flavor differences. I can't say it puts one over the other, but I can, in a blind taste test, I can tell a Pizza Hut from a Domino's, from a Papa John's, I think.
Yeah, I think I can pick them out. I think I can distinguish them from each other, but I don't think I have a strong opinion of which is better or worse.
I agree.
So with that as a backdrop, I want to talk a little bit specifically about Pizza Hut and Domino's, which are the 2 largest pizza chains out there right now when looking at sales and number of locations. There's a small drop-off, and then Papa John's and Little Caesars are pretty close. But 5, 10, and especially 15 years ago, Pizza Hut was just the big kid bully on the block, and the other chains were just these kind of smaller, regionally based competitor brands trying to catch up with Pizza Hut. But over the past 5 years especially, these other chains have managed to close the gap, and Domino's is now accelerating at lightning speed, and they will pass Pizza Hut pretty soon in sales. It's obvious if you look at the trends and read any articles. And the reason behind it can pretty specifically be traced, and there's research and articles to show this, to something that might seem frivolous or silly or, to some people like, really, that's the reason? But as I said, this is the reason, and it's online ordering. And not only that, online ordering done brilliantly and uniquely. A lot of our listeners are probably familiar with the Domino's Pizza Tracker. If you're not, briefly, once you order online, they show you step by step when your pizza, the order is received, as it's being prepped, as it's in the oven, as it's being quote-unquote checked, which is probably a code word for there's no delivery drivers available, so it's sitting there for a while, and then when it's out to delivery. And I remember distinctly the first time I discovered this when I moved to the suburbs, and I was just like, oh, this is the greatest invention of all time. I'm always anxious when I order a pizza. I'm like, where is it? Is it going to be here soon? I'm so hungry. And I got to tell you, even if it's taking a long time, I'd rather see where it is in the process. And not only the Pizza Tracker, I think that's kind of their biggest coup so far. They have a great mobile app. They have something that a lot of the chains have now where you can log in and you have your own account and you can save your favorite orders or your last order. And now Domino's even has, this might be, in my opinion, a bit of overkill or something that's just done to kind of get press out there, but they have voice ordering in their app, similar to Siri on the iPhone. You can literally open the app and order by voice, which I haven't tried yet. I think there's really not much reason for it because I can literally pull up the Domino's website or app right now while doing this podcast, while talking right now, and order a pizza in literally 30 seconds. And I might just do that because I'm hungry. Papa John's has been good with the online ordering capabilities, not up to Domino's standards yet. They were kind of the next in line to get behind, and kind of hand in hand, they've closed the gap on Pizza Hut as well, just not as quickly as Domino's. So let's talk about Pizza Hut for a bit. They got caught with their pants down on this, and if you read industry articles, they won't admit it, but everybody knows that they were kind of the laggard when the quote-unquote technological revolution hit a few years ago. They kind of played it cool and stayed with their dine-in mentality. Now they're coming up with more of the outlandish pizzas, the cheese crust filled with pepperoni, filled with another crust filled with cheese and pepperoni. They have a new partnership with Hershey's for a chocolate dessert pizza. Honestly, it's not doing anything to close the gap, and it can all be traced back to them not getting on the digital bandwagon for several years. They're behind the times. They're seen as an old, stodgy brand. I mean, can you go on their website and order a pizza? Sure you can, now. But it's an ugly website. It's not well designed. They weren't at the forefront, so the younger customers don't even think of them as an online option, and they're just not top of mind. Do they still have a loyal, older customer base who will pick up the phone and make an order? Sure, and that's why they're still number one, but they're not getting any younger. And more importantly, Pizza Hut isn't replacing these older consumers with the younger ones who can literally be playing their PlayStation 4 or Xbox and order some pizzas while they're playing their favorite video game, which happens all the time. So the moral of the story is really how something so seemingly simple can make such a big difference. It's not, as we talked about, marketing we've touched on in prior episodes. This isn't really marketing in the traditional sense, but in our new digital world of kind of making people's lives easier through digital technology, it kind of is marketing. Where I live, I can get delivery from Domino's, Papa John's, or Pizza Hut. As I said, I think the pizza is of similar quality. The price points are very similar. Where do I order from? Domino's every time, because it's incredibly easy, and I love being able to track my pizza. Hugh, am I too in love with the ordering technology here? What are your thoughts on this?
Rod, I'm very intrigued at how knowledgeable and bullish you are on the pizza ordering technology, because I think it's something I haven't experienced. I've seen advertisements, especially for the latest ordering app where you do it by voice. And to me, as someone who doesn't use it, it looked like maybe a gimmick that's interesting to try, but in the end, it may not be the way people are going to order. It sounds to me like you've found most of the innovations pretty useful. As you were talking, I remembered the first time I ordered food online for delivery. I believe it was Domino's, and it was well before there was anything called an app or anything like that, but I decided to look on the internet to see if you could do it online. I don't know. I didn't feel like telling anyone. I didn't feel like picking up the phone and talking to anyone. I don't know why, or maybe I was just curious. But I remember doing it that way actually causing me it was interesting, but I actually wasn't sure if I was even going to get my food. When the doorbell rang, I was actually a little bit surprised that it worked. This was how
1973, folks.
Exactly. This was through a dial-up modem. No, it was, and I don't even remember the year. I suppose I could sit here and try to figure it out, but it was even before, even an iPhone was a regular part of people's lives. So this was on my computer. They had a website. I remember, filling in little boxes and giving my order and then clicking send and wondering what was going to happen next. So it's an interesting filter through which to just see the confidence with which we work with technology nowadays. Since then, I've ordered things online for delivery a lot, but I have not gotten nearly as technologically advanced as you have. I think your affection for it is encouraging because there's no reason technology shouldn't be making this a efficient and pleasurable experience. The food tracking sounds like a fantastic innovation because, peace of mind of knowing that food is on its way is very valuable because, 1 out of 100 times that order is never coming, and you make that phone call, then they always tell you it's coming.
You just wait.
Sometimes you can tell that it never made it past the phone call.
It's a stressful experience for sure. Yeah, I'll touch on a couple of your points. Like I said, I never really used the online ordering until I moved to the suburbs, and I wasn't forced to do so, but it's just so much easier and makes more sense. Another positive of the online ordering is the coupons. You don't have to call and explain that you have a coupon. You just literally click on the coupon and it populates everything for you. It's truly the lazy man's way to go. It's amazing. You can build your pizza on the screen. The toppings will go on and you're like, wow, pepperoni with black olives, that does look really good. And the other thing is, you said that you had seen the voice ordering app and thought it was a little gimmicky, and I agree. I think this is where potentially they've jumped the shark and have gone over the top. There's no need for it. I think it is a gimmick, and I'm interested to see how that pans out for them.
Hungry Dads!
In addition to doing this podcast and being a creator of content related to food, I am obviously also a consumer of content for food-related topics. And I want to share with our listeners some of the things I've taken in a segment I want to call Eater's Digest. It's sort of like Reader's Digest, but it's Eater's Digest. And what I would like to do is just share some of the headlines I've seen, some of the websites and other forms of media I turn to regularly where I end up getting some very interesting information. And when that information is about food, I want to share it with you. Let me start first with a podcast. Rod, when you first suggested that we could do a podcast, I laughed because I had just said to my wife, you know what I would love to do? I'd love to do a podcast where I review other podcasts. I'm a huge fan of podcasts, and I want to share one in particular with you, and an episode in particular of a podcast that's called 99% Invisible. The podcast is actually about design and architecture, but they've broadened their horizons over time, and they did an episode a few weeks ago, and the title of the episode was called Good Bread. And I would urge our listeners to check it out because it was about white bread. And it starts kind of with that theory of, it's the best thing since they start out with that statement of, it's the best thing since sliced bread. And they get into white bread and sliced bread in society today. It's kind of become demonized. White bread is evil. It's unhealthy. But what they end up telling is the story of bread, the history of bread, and the history of white bread, and how white bread and sliced white bread, for as unhealthy as it is now, was actually created as a response to a health concern. Bakeries were putting chalk and sawdust in their bread. And so the factory machinations, people found that much more trustworthy and much more clean and much more healthy. And bread got blamed for a lot of health problems until the factories, Wonder Bread being the major one, produced this sliced white bread. 99% Invisible just did a fantastic job of telling the story of white bread and how it went from being the healthy alternative for bread to now becoming this demonized, unhealthy version. And it brings you through kind of the last 100 years of American history through the view of bread. I encourage our listeners to check that out.
Yeah, the new Wonder Bread tagline could be, "It's better than chalk."
I think that was their original tagline, and they should come back to it because I think that's about the best they can do nowadays. Next, in my Eater's Digest segment, I want to mention a website that I go to on an almost daily basis, and it's theconsumerist.com. There's a few headlines that jumped out at me at consumerist.com. For those of you that don't know, The Consumerist is a website that talks about all sorts of issues facing consumers and all sorts of headlines and interesting topical sometimes trivial little items about stores and restaurants and customers and customer service. The first headline I wanted to share, and I'm going to urge you to check out at consumers.com, is from November 14th, 2014. It says McDonald's created bubblegum flavored broccoli to try to get kids to eat healthier. The Consumers article actually sources Business Insider to give all due credit, but basically it's a statement from a McDonald's representative who talks about how they're trying to do a bubblegum flavored vegetable to see if that would work on kids. What do you think?
That's raising all sort of ethical type questions, I think. Can that really be... You're obviously injecting the broccoli with some weird stuff to make it taste like bubblegum, so are you undoing all the good of eating a green vegetable when it tastes like bubblegum due to some chemical process? I don't know. It's fascinating.
Yeah, it's just another piece of evidence. As we talked about a few episodes ago, McDonald's is on the run. It's doing whatever it can to both please consumers' palate and please the society's demands for healthier alternatives. Like you said before, it almost seems like a fake item, but this is the kind of thing that they're trying to do. Another very interesting offering by consumers.com is this headline from November 11th, which states, "I tried 21 variations of new Pizza Hut offerings and survived." What Mary Beth Quirk, who's a writer for Consumer, she's the main writer, she reviews her experience going through a Pizza Hut professional reviewer event where Pizza Hut had put out 21 new flavor offerings and invited kind of the food press to come check all this out. Ms. Quirk does a fantastic review of each of the 21 flavors, explaining which ones spoke to her, which ones was good, bad, or otherwise. And they talk about a new pretzel crust edge, a new cheese and ginger crust edge, a curry flavor on the crust, a meat extreme, a garden extreme, and a new skinny style pizza, which is intended to be kind of low carb and low calorie. I strongly encourage all of our listeners to check this out. It really is right on the pulse of the kind of things that we at Hungry Dads are interested in.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like I mentioned when we were talking about Pizza Hut, they seem to be going more towards the angle of the new flavors and even straying on the outlandish flavors that, that seems to be their new thing. I don't know if it's going to work because I'd rather just be able to order on their website easily, but it's interesting.
The last offering in Eater's Digest that I wanted to share was a website that I found myself wrapped up in for an hour, and I'm not sure why. It's called www.whatsgoodattraderjoes.com. And I don't know if everyone's familiar with Trader Joe's. It's a grocery store. Do you have Trader Joe's where you are?
We do have one Trader Joe's where I am, and we would frequent the New York locations when we were up there and are big fans. I was also in California for a short time and went to Trader Joe's quite a bit.
If you don't know, Trader Joe's is a grocery store, and in theory there's nothing unique about it in that it offers food like any other grocery store. But what makes it very unique is that all the products at Trader Joe's are Trader Joe's branded items. If you go to any grocery store, they tend to have their own Kroger brand or Stop and Shop brand or Publix brand, and then they also have the name brands that you see advertised, your Doritos and your Cokes and things like that. Well, at Trader Joe's, the entire store is only Trader Joe's brand products. And it's everything. They have everything a normal grocery store has. There's just no options. They have one choice of pizza. It's the Trader Joe's brand pizza. They have one choice of sugar. It's the Trader Joe's brand sugar. One of the reasons people like it is because it's cheaper, or it's at least perceived to be cheaper, because you're not paying for those name brands. Another reason it's well liked is actually because it eliminates choice. And there's a great bit of study going on right now about how choice actually reduces people's satisfaction in their life and in their shopping experiences. So when you go to a store and you have to check out the 4 different brands of any item and compare and contrast and then wonder if you got the right one, Trader Joe's eliminates that stressful shopping situation by just giving you one choice. But going back to what's good at TraderJoe's.com, it's really just a very well-written website where they review the various offerings by Trader Joe's. They're obviously fans of Trader Joe's, so a lot of their reviews are positive, but they're very honest. It's well-written. It's just fascinating. Again, it's right in the wheelhouse of what we're interested in here at Hungry Dads. Please, check out what's good at TraderJoe's.com.
That's a good example of something that seems so niche and so specific, but it's a valuable website that a lot of people go to, and it's just, like you said, probably a couple of Trader Joe's fans who started it up, and now that's how they make a living. Hungry Dads! Visit our website at hungrydads.com. Follow us on Twitter at hungry_dads. This has been a Hungry Dads production.
There's a few headlines that jumped out. There's a few headlines that jumped out at.